Hi, folks. Hope you're doing well. My name is Stacy, and today I'm going to talk about what a deacon is. What is a deacon, and why do I want to be one? Now, I'm going to speak about what a deacon is in the Episcopal Church, because that is the church I am a member of. I'm an Episcopalian. And the position of deacon varies from denomination to denomination. It means different things. So I'm going to talk about what it means in the Episcopal Church to be a deacon. The idea of a deacon or a servant, which is actually what the word deacon means. It means servant, and it's taken from a Greek word that means to serve. Um, Actually goes back a far, far, far way. There are famous deacons. Saint Stephen was a deacon. Phoebe was a deacon. Saint Francis of Assisi, a very popular saint, was a deacon. He was a friar as well, but he was a deacon. So, whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not, you've heard of a deacon. You probably just didn't know they were a deacon. Here to enlighten you. In the Episcopal Church, there are three ordained positions: deacons, priests, and bishops. All these positions are open to men and women, married, unmarried, it doesn't matter. And what a deacon does primarily is serve their diocese. They are assigned a parish church, but they report to the bishop and the diocese. What they are to do is act as a connection, a bridge to the community and the church. Not just the parish church, but the church as a whole. They are to go out and find out what the needs are of the community and let the church know, and then get the church involved in helping the community. Now, churches do this already that don't even have deacons. They do this, and priests are involved in outreach as well. But deacons are there to focus on this mainly because priests are very busy with a lot of things, mainly taking care of their parish church. Deacons go out into the world. That's why you'll see them a lot of times in food banks or soup kitchens or any kind of ministry that helps people. And it also is the duty of a deacon to talk to their parish church and get the parishioners excited about serving people and helping them, because that is what we're called to do as Christians. It is in our baptismal vows. Our vows tell us to love each other and treat each other with dignity and to emulate Christ, follow Christ. Following Jesus is a big part of being a deacon. And what did Jesus do? He healed people. He cared about the hungry. He fed the hungry. He stood up for the poor. So, this is what a deacon is supposed to do, and get their parishioners involved in this as well. Deacons also assist at the church service. You will see a deacon next to the priest, helping the priest throughout the service, usually with baptisms. Deacons also read the gospel. Deacons also preach. There are some things deacons are not permitted to do that priests do. For instance, a deacon cannot grant absolution if you are saying a confession. The deacon could listen to your confession, but can't grant you absolution, which is what a priest does. And a deacon cannot give a blessing. Deacons serve next to the priest, and they wear something similar to the priest. You've seen priests wear the collar and the black shirt. Deacons wear that as well. They also wear a tunic called an alb, and they wear a stole. But there's a difference between the priest's stole and the deacon's stole. Priests tend to wear their stoles like a scarf, like going vertical down across the body, like you would a scarf. Deacons wear their stole across the body, kind of like a sash, like a beauty contestant will wear in Miss America, the sash. When I was a kid in late 70s, early 80s, I was a Girl Scout. I was a junior Girl Scout, and back then we wore sashes from the left shoulder down across the body, and on the sash I had my badges and anything I earned, pins, badges, and so forth. I still have it too. And so, God willing, if I get ordained, I will be wearing a sash once again, full circle. And Girl Scouts serve the community as well. So, full circle. Okay, so that's how you spot a deacon in the church. Here is an example of a group of deacons, a gaggle of deacons, a herd of deacons. I don't know what you would call this, but it's a group of deacons. Here they are. If you can see that. They're all wearing their stoles. And their albs. That's the white tunic. Here's another picture of deacons. There we go. It's kind of blurry. I'm sorry I don't have a clearer picture, but you could see it though. They are wearing their stoles over their albs. And the color red means something too. Red is usually used in ordinations because it's the symbol of the Holy Spirit, or fire. And the Holy Spirit is present during an ordination. Sorry I don't have brighter light here. I really need to get one of those bright lights that people who do videos use. I need a professional influencer equipment, light equipment. I'll get to that eventually, but from now on I will just have to rely on my lamps, which aren't too great. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's what a deacon is in the Episcopal Church and where you could see them. And like I said, it's an ordained position, and once you're ordained, you get to be called reverend, just like a priest. Reverend. The Reverend Stacy, it just sounds kind of crazy to me right now, but I guess it will sound normal after a while. Now, I will go into why I want to be a deacon. And how did this happen? Well, one day I was in church and the archdeacon came to speak to us. The archdeacon is the head of the deacons in the diocese, and he came to talk to the church, the congregation, because the diocese wanted more deacons in the church. So the archdeacon was sent out to talk to different parishes to let people know what a deacon is and to see if anyone felt called to be one. So I listened to what he said, and he gave out a pamphlet and it said, "Are you called to be a deacon?" And it had information in there. And I realized I was already doing a lot of what a deacon does in the church. I was very involved in outreach. I was very involved in serving the church during the church service. I was a reader, a lay reader. I had preached a couple of times because you could preach as a lay person if the priest permits you to. I was helping serve the chalice during the service. That's the big cup with wine inside. I was giving it to the parishioners during communion. And I was getting more involved with Bible study and also studying the history of the church. So, and I was also expanding my prayer life. Aside from going to the church service, I would also participate in different types of prayer, meditation, contemplative prayer, private prayer at home. So the deacon does all these things. So I thought, hey, wait a minute. Why not make it official? um, so I gave it a lot of serious thought, and I went to my parish priest. That is the first thing you're supposed to do when you feel like you're being called to ministry, to ordained ministry. You go to your priest and you talk about it. So after I did that, talked to my priest, I was referred to somebody in the diocese. I was referred to the archdeacon, who I met with. I was referred to someone called the canon of ministry. This person works for the diocese, and their job is to kind of direct programs and people who express an interest in serving the church. It's a lot of work. And then I filled out an application and I got some clearances. I had to get a physical, I had to get a psychological exam, I had to get criminal clearance because they want to make sure a sane, stable person with no background, bad background, is entering the church. And during the application, it's not just like a job application. You do disclose your education, your work history, the kinds of positions you've held, and what degrees you have, and if any, but you also disclose things about your personal life, what your family life is like, what your upbringing was like, what your religious life was like, what your childhood was like, And if you're married, are you partnered? Do you date? That kind of thing. They want to get a full picture of you because you're coming at them and saying you want to serve the church. And they want to know who you are. So I was required really to really look back on my life and think about that and disclose a lot of things. And it was interesting to do that, to tell my story, because I never really did that before. And when you're in that process, it's called a discernment process. It means you're thinking about serving the church. You're thinking about ordination. And it's a long process. It requires a lot of deep thought and prayer. It's very serious. So, as I was writing my story, a lot of things came up that I haven't even thought about. And I was amazed. Yeah, I was thinking about that then. I was doing some spiritual things then and thinking about spiritual matters then. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but yeah, I was doing that. So, it was quite interesting. And then I met with the Commission on Ministry. That is a committee of people in the diocese that meets and gets together and talks to people who are interested in serving the church as clergy. And it's like an interview process. And then they report to the bishop what their findings are. So I made it through that, and I moved from aspirant, that's somebody who expresses that they want to be clergy. I went from that to becoming a postulant. And the postulancy contains a number of steps. There's an education piece. There's a piece where you volunteer somewhere. Could be a shelter or food bank, something that is like a social service. There is also a clinical pastoral component of it. If you have ever been in a hospital as a patient and had a chaplain visit you, that's clinical pastoral care. And there's a whole program that teaches people how to do that. So I had to do that as well. I had to learn that. And you meet, well, in my case, there was a group of postulants that met monthly. And we met with one of the archdeacons. And we would get together and tell each other what was going on in our lives and discuss the education we were going through. We all went through the same educational program together. Now, in my diocese, you do not need a theological degree. You don't need you don't need a divinity degree or a theology degree. But the diocese will have an educational program you'll have to complete. And they should arrange the whole thing. Tell you what you need to do. They will pay for it. In my case, I found it very Well, it was hard work, but it was easy to do as somebody who works full time. Oh, I have to add this. Deacons do not get paid. Very important point. Uh, Priests get paid. They get a salary, and they are priests full time. That's their only job, is to be a priest. They cannot have a secular job. Deacons can have jobs since they won't get paid by the church. They need jobs. So I need my full time job. And that's why you see a lot of deacons who are either retired or they still work, they have jobs, or you have some that don't work for whatever reason. Like I said, they're either retired or they live with someone who brings in the income into the household, um, or they're self-employed. Um, yeah, whatever the case is. Uh, Being a deacon is not, if you're in it for the money, you don't want to be a deacon. um, 'Cause there's no money to be made. That's not a reason to be a deacon. Um, so as a full-time worker, I found it very easy to complete what I needed to do for my postulancy. Because they take into consideration that I had to work full time, as did other people in my group. So, um, so we had an education piece, like I said, and we learned about the Bible, about the history of the church, about preaching, about liturgy, which is the service, and a whole bunch of things. um, and also at the same time, we write letters to the bishop telling him how things are going in lives and with the program. Um, they're called Ember Days. The, the church calendar has Ember Days on it. So they're 4 times a year where you rate the bishop. So, in my diocese, postulancy lasts about 3 years. And then you become a candidate. You have some meetings with the Commission on Ministry and the Standing Committee, which is a committee that works directly with the bishop, and you move forward. And oh, I forgot this one piece. While you're in your postulancy, you meet with your parish. You meet with a group of parishioners in your church for a set number of times, and they endorse you at the end. After you meet with them and discuss your calling and discuss your life with them, and they ask you questions, and they get a real good picture of who you are, and then they endorse you. Yeah, she's going to be a good deacon. We endorse her. And your priest endorses you as well as another group within the church called the vestry. For those of you who aren't Episcopalian, the vestry in a parish is kind of like a board of directors in the secular world. They meet with the priest and talk about matters in the parish. It could be anything from outreach to Sunday school to fixing the building to property. There's all kinds of things that go on as far as running a church is concerned. So many things you don't even think about. Okay. Like the linens on the altar, they don't get there by themselves. They don't clean themselves either. There's a whole group of people that does this. Ushers in the church that tell you to go up to the rail. You probably never thought of that before. Music committee, the choir, the musicians. They're a whole other group. So all these little groups within the church are represented at vestry meetings. And also, vestries endorse people from the church who want to be clergy. They endorsed me. So, I also want to say I was in the program. It's called the Diaconate program. Twice. First time I was in it, I was just going through a lot at my job, and it was too overwhelming for me, and I withdrew. Not even 10 years later, I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking about being a deacon. And individual people from church would come up to me and say, "You ever think about being a deacon? You ever think about re-entering the program? You'd make a good deacon." And it was all these separate people at separate times bringing it up to me. And I had somebody else say, I hope you become a deacon. I hope you really think about it again. You'd be good. And so I said, okay. Obviously I'm supposed to really think about this, so I will think about it. And if you're called to do something, the call doesn't go away. Even if you ignore it, it will not go away. And I say this even besides religious callings. If you are called to do something, it is such a force and it will not go away. Whether you're called to play music, whether you're called to play sports, whether you're called to a career like a teacher or a nurse or a writer or whatever, or volunteer work. I know a lot of people in cat rescue. And these people don't get paid to go rescue cats that are homeless. But they do it constantly. Now, in all kinds of weather, too. In the rainy weather and snowy and ice and the heat. And they find these homeless cats, take them in, make them well, and find homes for them. Or the ones they can't take home, they show up with cat food and feed them to keep them alive. And they don't get paid for this. But they're driven to do this because it's their calling. And these people have busy lives, and they have problems like everybody else. Illness and financial strain and kids to take care of, parents to take care of, car problems, you name it. But they do it anyway, because the calling is there. It won't go away. If you're passionate passionate enough about something, you'll do it. No matter what roadblocks are there, you will do it. And no matter how crazy it seems to other people, you will do it. So I think everybody has a calling. It's just that sometimes you have to figure it out. And that's also called discernment. When you discern a calling, if you're figuring it out, what you're supposed to do, it's discernment. So, anyway, I think people think being called to something religious or clergy, they probably think it's this big dramatic thing that happens where a light comes down on you and you hear angels or a lightning bolt. It's like, yeah. It's this big dramatic thing, but it's not. Well, it wasn't for me anyway. It was like all these little hints, these little things that kept happening. And also, it wouldn't leave my head. It's like, be a deacon, be a deacon. So, I was called and I answered the call, and I'm really glad I did that. So, at present, I am a candidate, and God willing, I will be ordained in the near future. And if you have never seen an ordination, I recommend that you watch one. There are plenty to watch on YouTube. Just Google ordination of a deacon or ordination of a priest or even a bishop if you'd like to see that. They are a sight to behold. It's a very elaborate service with a lot of pomp and circumstance and um, taking vows and kneeling before the bishop, and the bishop putting his hands on you and getting your Bible and it's people praying for you, a whole room of people in a church, and a lot of times they take place at cathedrals because they're bigger and they hold more people, and that's usually where the bishop is. So hopefully my video in the future will be all about my ordination. I can't think of anything else I should say about this, but there are lots of resources on the web about the diaconate, Episcopal deacons, Episcopal Church, and well, people have asked me if I thought about being a priest, and I said I thought about it, and I think it's not for me. Why I want to be a deacon and not a priest? First of all, I think the priest role is a little too parental for me. I was never called to be a parent. I don't have children. I'm what is called child free by choice. I won't get into why I'm that way, but because this will make it way too long. But a priest has to take care of like a big family, which is the parish, and the building, which is like a big house. And priests are called father or mother, or woman priest. And there's a reason for that. It's like being a parent of a huge, huge family in a big house. And that's not for me. I am more called more to get out there and serve the people feed the hungry, and stand up for the homeless, stand up for people who need to be, who don't have a voice in society. Also, to become a priest, you have to quit your job, and you also have to go to seminary. And I don't think I could handle that. Seminary is very tough. It's 3 years, and even if I did it part time, I think it would be a little much for me. There are many people who are called to be priests. I know quite a few, and they are pursuing that right now, and they have my prayers, and I think they will do very well. And so I think I spoke enough. I spoke over a half an hour on this. So if you want to know more about the Episcopal Church, I have another video called Why I Am an Episcopalian. So I recommend that too. And I recommend that you subscribe to me. I was quite shocked that I have 17 subscribers. Of course, that's not a lot, but it's 17 more than I expected. So spread the word, share this video, and subscribe to me. I'd really appreciate that. Okay? And you are all in my prayers, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. I know this was quite long, but thank you. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.